Hey, Gretchen. You muted.
Sorry. I have.
Are you in North Carolina?
I'm actually in Manhattan right now. I have a little surgery on Friday and had to come out for a couple of procedures. So it's kind of funny because my friend has this gym that has a cafe, has nice places to sit. So I bought an outrageously expensive guest pass and I'm hanging out in this building all day.
that's
Right?
that's the future, man. Buy a pass and hang out in a nice place.
Yeah. I was like, I can go to my appointment in the morning and then go to the gym and then go to another appointment and then have lunch and so
That's awesome.
are you in San Diego?
Yes, yeah. I was in the Bay Area all of last week, just visiting friends and stuff, and enjoying a much needed kind of vacation. Not doing anything else, but hanging out. Is my godson's birthday. He's turning 3. He's just the most adorable person, so it's nice to hang out with him. And he calls me his best friend when we're hanging. It's really adorable. Yeah, so yeah. But I'm back in San Diego for next 2 weeks until the Decentralized Web Summit thing that's happening at the Internet Archive at the end of the month, which is super excited. Talked to Dawn yesterday at the Data Together meeting, and so she's planning on going and trying to organize a meetup for all of us, Rob and Brendan's going to be there, Matt said, and stuff like that. So looking forward to meeting in person. Never met Brendan in person, never met Dawn in person. It'll be super cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know we're kind of only just waiting on Tolly. Maybe Francis, this other dev that's been helping with our deployment, but Rob, Ray, and Dan are all traveling right now, or at a conference. Yeah, so they're probably not going to show up. Tolly did say he had a doctor's appointment or something too, so he might not. I don't know if he's going to show up either, but we'll just give it another minute, and maybe this meeting will just be really, really short because nobody's here. Yeah, but yeah. Most of the updates I was going to give was just the feedback I received, and then you heard all of that when we were at the analyst meeting on Monday. But I'll reiterate for people that watched the video.
Yeah, and I can also, if you want other examples of the things where it's just kind of a hidden HTML change, where you don't see anything on the screen. If you want more examples of that, I'm happy to send some over too.
Yeah, I mean, that's always interesting. I think we can it should go in the web monitoring channel just so other people see it. The thing that's difficult is I would wish that it goes into the archiver's web monitoring, but then most of the web monitoring analysts, they don't monitor that channel at all. So it's so we end up putting it to the private team channel, which is not great because it's private, So it's we're fighting against what people use against trying to be more open and transparent about things. So do it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth a couple times about opening the channel. I would be in favor of opening it, even though I was one of the ones that wanted it closed in the beginning. Just because I do want a space to talk about changes that before we know they're anything important, and one experience I had where I posted something to that channel and was like, oh my God, look at this. And then somebody tweeted it. And it was wait. Oh.
Yeah, that's not good.
So that's why we closed it to begin. But now I feel we have a better onboarding system and a better like training and kind of like code of conduct and other sort of guidelines. And so I think that if we built that into the guidelines of like don't like publicize what goes on in this channel, like if people agree to that, then I think that it'd be good to open it. But
yeah, I think it's definitely a conversation to bring up to get consensus. Yeah, I mean, I think going forward, because it's in edgy, like the edgy Slack, and that has like a barrier of entry already. So that could be part of like, just respecting like the boundaries of certain channels within edgy Slack. Makes sense. That's like part of the onboarding.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can get started. Let's see. So from like a high level perspective, from the hiring, there's a very positive candidate, or like just like a prospective candidate, and they're doing second round interviews. So we're looking for people to join a meeting next week. There's one to me. It's kind of private because only certain people on the team should respond to this and attend anyways. So I didn't link to it, but it's just like some of the people that aren't here should fulfill that or fill out that survey. And then on milestone 002, which is getting off Versionista, it's a little bit stalled because people have been traveling so much. The big part right now, if you're not aware, is just like this automated deployment process of like all our different applications need to be pushed out to Amazon, and the process right now is it's automated, but it's using a system that we're moving away from, and then I don't even know how to use that first system, and so the second system they're still working on is like, so it's very disjointed, the whole deployment process, so it makes it really hard when we create changes to software to actually like deploy it to people, because not everybody on the team has the same level of access. So we're trying to get it to this point where it's like everybody has the same access, everybody's using the same process. It's like really like easy to do, type out a single command. And that's very difficult and done in people's spare time. So that's like the big stalling point right now. It's just like this consolidating a single deployment process. But last I heard, Dan and Francis is the other person I was talking about. They've been working together. Francis has experience in this domain, and so he's been like really, really contributing a lot to this effort. But he's also volunteering. So hopefully, when Dan gets back next week, we'll hear more progress. There's also, so even if they did finish the deployment process, we still wouldn't just jump off of Versionista. There would be like this like kind of transition period where we would test the deployment process, because once the deployment is done, we would be more comfortable deploying the IA scraping, because right now we're still just only scraping from Versionista. So once the deployment process is done, and then like it's easy to change things if we mess up or whatnot, there still will be this transition period where we test like all the IA stuff and use Versionista, and then once we see that things are looking good, and then we can just like jump off of it. So it wouldn't be like like immediately we got the deploy process done and then deploy IA. We would still have like a couple months to test IA alongside Versionista. So that's that's 002. It's very difficult to get off of. I mean, we're like kind of replacing this like third-party service, so like it makes sense that it takes a lot of effort. Do you have any updates that you want to give?
I guess I actually have a question more than an update.
Sure, I'll try to answer.
That I have brought up with the analyst, like with the whole analyst team times, and kind of my next step on it was to talk to the dev folks. So the analysts do these things called analyst sheets.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like cataloging every single change, even like a date change at the bottom of the page, kind of thing.
Are you talking about the spreadsheets that they look at every week? That's what they, and then they go through and click through every single one, like all the changes that happened in the domains that they're monitoring. That's the analyst sheet you're talking about.
Not only do they click on and look at every change, but they also then copy them into another spreadsheet um, and catalog what happened on each one. So, like maybe a date change at the bottom of the page, maybe um, a menu bar change that affected like 400 pages, and cataloging each and every instance that. And it's really like a remarkable amount of time that takes.
Yeah.
And the original idea was that, I guess, both out of concern of like, if we only catalog the things that we think are important changes, then like, is our own bias going to get in the way? And we should really catalog all changes.
Mm-hmm.
But that, like, I think just isn't a compelling argument when we look at the capacity sink that these analyst sheets are.
Yeah.
And also that like we still do have a document of all the changes that occurred. It just would take a lot less time if we didn't catalog them.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that the other purpose of it, in addition to the like, just kind of like, oh, we should catalog everything so that we are aware of our own bias or something. Even though I think in this case, like, we should be biased or like realized. But the other reason was that like eventually there's a goal of doing machine learning and being able to just like have something that's just a date stamp change just not appear in the group of changes that analysts receive to look at.
Yeah.
I heard that was like one of the things that maybe we were talking to DataKind about, of like if there were like diffs, like certain diffs or diff lengths that indicated something just that was just a date stamp change.
Yeah.
And I heard that like basically the data was too messy, and that it wasn't really feasible yet.
Yeah.
And so my question is, at this point, I don't know exactly how many data points we have, but it's definitely in tens of thousands between all these sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me wonders if we should just stop doing those, and maybe just like have a single column of like unimportant change. Because if we're not anywhere close to using that data, I think it makes to gain that capacity back from the analysts to be able to spend more time on report writing, more time on investigations. Anyway, yeah. So I guess my question is like, is that data going to be used? Are we on the cusp of it being used? If not, are like 50,000 data points, give or take, enough that like whenever it is on the cusp of use, that would be a set, so we don't have to continue into it.
Yeah.
Well, because I was at the DataKind, like kind of like recap, their like summary of the results. And so it was kind of disappointing because they had like they had voluntary issues too. And basically what ended up happening is they ended up with like 2 managers and only 1 developer actually working on the project at the end of it. Or like midway in between until the end. And so like, like a manager's roles are important, but you don't need 2 managers for 1 developer. And so there wasn't actually a lot that he could get done by himself. And then from what they said for like the machine learning aspect, like we don't have nearly enough. Like they were saying like hundreds of thousands against like millions. Like hundreds of thousands, like, things that we would signify as, whatever we wanted versus like the negative, millions of what we don't want so that they could like learn. So we would need like a lot of data points. So I don't think we're close. So what they ended up recommending is just using like simple algorithms, things like that, like looking to see if something is likely to be a date and using that to like throw out stuff as opposed to like a machine learning algorithm, that type of stuff. Yeah, and I think Rob said too, he kind of felt that was going to be the case at the beginning, when it was proposed to DataKind. Like we let them know that maybe it's not enough data points, and they try to like use it, but it didn't, and ended up not being working out. And there's a capacity issue as well. Going forward, yeah, I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense because, like, yeah, it doesn't seem like these far-fetched ideas, like we're not gonna, like with the machine learning, it's not gonna happen anytime soon. And so just the analysts dumping it into like an insignificant sheet and not worrying about like why it is like categorizing everything. They know why. But if it saves like a huge amount of time, I'm all for saving time, especially volunteer time. I think that's our most like valuable like resource right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, so all this type of like filtering and stuff that hasn't, I have to relook at the milestones, but like I don't think that's the next milestone. It could be part of the next milestone. I think as we get the new hires in, the senior dev and the sysadmin and the PM and all this stuff, we definitely should reevaluate the milestones. But right now, like the focus is getting off Versionisa, so we don't have to pay for it anymore. Like we just, yeah, we don't have this like paid service anymore. And like I said earlier, it's been very difficult because it's only, Rob and Dan and myself, and we're all just volunteering. And they've been like a lot busier, like really recently too. So it's hard. But I agree with you. I think from the analyst perspective, just tossing it aside is enough for now, especially to save so much time.
Yeah, that's my very strong feeling. I feel like other folks might not share. Got to be a discussion, but so that this is what we need to do is like stop unimportant changes.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been able to make it to the analyst meetings. What's the feedback that you've kind of received so far from like general?
People are, I think some people think that we're like almost there where like soon enough those would be filtered out. And so like if we just need to keep doing these cataloging for another like couple of months, then maybe it's worth it. If it were like means that in a couple of months, like all things that are just a date change or just a header change or something would be filtered out. But it sounds like that's not the case. And I think other people do want to like make sure, I think they just don't want to lose the data of like if they're interesting in terms of like how a header bar change like affects a whole slew of pages or like like actually I think that is something that's important of like, oh, if you really do change like the menu bar, you don't need to like catalog 13,000 examples of it, but like if you change the menu bar, like that's going to have a big impact. I think people are just worried about like losing some of that information, but really think that like there's always a trade-off, and like the capacity that could be gained back is so worth it.
Yeah. How many like hours a week do you think it would be saved if they didn't have to like categorize those things? Like on average, do you estimate?
I was going to do a little experiment with my own monitoring this week and see how quickly I could do like a random 100 changes.
Mm-hmm.
I just like didn't catalog the unimportant ones versus how quickly I could do another random 100.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is a lot though. Like, cause I think I spend for any one unimportant change, I still probably spend like 30 seconds or more on it, you know, to be able to like mark off like it's a yes, there was a date change, like yes, there was a header change, like this is a repeated thing I've seen before, and then I'm gonna make like a couple comments about like, you know, date and menu change or, you know, something in like another column. It probably takes like 20 seconds, and when you add that up over like hundreds of changes, that's a lot of time.
For those ones that they know that like a menu bar, even though so that you know it's the same change across a lot of different URLs and stuff. Don't I thought like normally in the spreadsheets they just kind of copy and paste it all the way down. Does that not reduce a lot of time in that case?
It's a slightly different diff. It's a slightly different diff for, and like some of them might have that header change and a date stamp change on that page, and so it's a different.
I
Like,
see. Yeah.
I've never gotten it to say like this is the exact same change
Mm,
for more than a handful. You know, like the diff hash is
yeah.
like maybe like 6 or something, and
Yeah.
that's like a big. Oh yeah, 6 of them are the exact same. When really it's basically the exact same change for like 100.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like slightly different.
Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I think we do need more input from the rest of the team, especially like if we can get the hires in on this. But I don't know. It's hard. Like yeah, I can't speak for Rob or Dan because they would be the ones that having to like help implement this stuff or the new hires. And so like I know it can be done obviously, but like how long it would take, I can't guess. Yeah. Yeah. But if you were saying would this happen within the next 2 or 3 months, I would say no.
Or if like maybe then we can like at least gain our capacity back for until it's like, because there are, okay, we don't have millions of data points, but we definitely have tens of thousands, which might be enough to start some.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. um, is there any resolution there, or do you have a good idea of next step, or what do you want to, how do you want to move forward on this question?
I think I might pitch to the analysts to each do a little test and do like half of their changes the same way as normal, like doing the analyst sheet, and half of them just like you just don't just move on and don't do anything with a change that like you look at it and it's an unimportant one,
Yeah.
and to time and see what kind of capacity it could gain back.
Would they would still like copy it the insignificant ones into that dictionary spreadsheet, right? Where all the insignificant things go into. They would still do that at least, right? They just wouldn't have to like categorize everything and write notes about it and all that stuff.
Yeah, Rob even said that he said at one point that they're like on the back end side there's already a list of all changes, like, or all crawls that resulted in all timestamps of crawls that demonstrated a change in a page.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it might not even be necessary to like copy and paste, which is true. We already have the output for that each week. So,
Yeah, but
but I
we
think
don't.
I would still copy it over so
Yeah.
that someone can keep track themselves of where they are in the list.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like,
yeah,
and
not.
we wouldn't know that they were insignificant though in the back end, you know. Like
Oh yeah,
it would need to be somewhere like where that that where that's why it's copied, just to know that it's insignificant, not why. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, okay. Into the analyst to try a little.
What's that? Sorry, you kind of broke up right there.
Oh, sorry. I'll recommend to the analyst to do that kind of speed test.
Yeah, that sounds good. Um, I guess we're coming to time. I'll just go over some quick stuff so that maybe the guys, if they watch this later, they can. So the main thing I did this week was go to Monday's analyst meeting and just try to get some feedback from some of the recent changes to the scanner. We had added this remove formatting checkbox, and that just kind of just removes all the formatting on the page so that it's not rendered with like menu bars and stuff like that. It just kind of looks like text. And the big question that we were left with was whether analysts wanted to default to that, because Versionisa kind of does inadvertently, just because they don't render things right most of the time, a lot of the times. And then from their feedback, it sounded like they didn't want that to be defaulted to. They liked seeing what was the page actually like looks like, and they would use it when they need to. But so there doesn't sound like there needs to be any change to that feature at this point. We have pushed out a new formatting for the outgoing links, but we didn't really announce it, and we didn't explain well like the iconography. So while the analysts kind of like had a generally good positive reaction to it, they just were kind of confused by like what some of the symbols meant and stuff like that. So I'm going to like read through the PR and maybe ping Rob if I don't understand things, and try to write up like just like a feature recap, like, oh, this is what was changed, and maybe these things will help you, because you know Jake wasn't sure what a plus and the minus and circles meant and stuff like that. So that should be useful to like, yeah. And apologies for not like announcing it and explaining more of the change. And then the analyst had a question, or like Marcy and Jake brought up, that they have these source only changes that they'll see, and so nothing visible will have changed. And they sent me some examples. I looked at them. Generally, these changes are happening because like the developers are changing the file name at the end of like JS, JavaScript, and CSS files, and they do that just so that these files are cached in a browser. So when you make change to the website, like, which is normal when you're just like updating things, you want the browser to download a new version and not use the cache. So the way they do that is they just assign like kind of this machine generated number at the end of file names, and they'll change it every time it's updated so that the browser will download a new copy. Generally, that shouldn't be a problem, but I did think about it for a little bit, and it's certainly possible to like hide and affect and change content with code in this way. And we don't like take snapshots of these files, like these JS and CSS files. So I don't know, maybe we would want to look at them. It'd be very, very difficult because you'd have to be like a web developer to like try to understand like if it's doing anything. But that process is difficult as well. I don't know if that's something we should be concerned about, but it's like certainly possible. Like you can hide content with code, and then the content on the page itself, like, you know, the source wouldn't change, and then you wouldn't. I don't know if the way that we rendered they would catch something like that. It'd be very like that'd be very intentional for somebody to do that. But I don't think there's a way for us to catch something like that right now. But I need to like talk to Rob and Dan and see what they think. Yeah. Yeah. Did that make sense? The explanation of the caching? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Any other questions, Gretchen? Anything else? Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, thanks. What was that?
Thank you for your explanation on the analyst sheet and where things are, and yeah, I appreciate learning more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's good to see like you come here, like new face, and then just like try to give you as much information as possible. Cool. Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day at that gym. Fancy gym. Okay, bye.